Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how jealousy is often experienced as an anxious, preoccupied attachment style individual. So we're sort of doing a series here, and it's like sort of the different ways that we may experience jealousy based on attachment style. And one of the big ones is jealousy for anxious, preoccupied people, and specifically and individually. And this is because anxious, preoccupied individuals experience jealousy different than a fearful avoidant will, different than a dismissive avoidant will. And it ignites different trauma responses amongst the different insecure attachment styles. So, for example, what we'll often see for anxious, preoccupied individuals is the trauma response that goes off is jealousy. Feelings of jealousy are associated with a threat to the attachment connection. And a threat to the attachment connection is associated for anxious individuals as them being about to be abandoned, rejected, and alone. And so what we'll often see is that experience is different than, let's say, a dismissive avoidant who may feel when they experience some form of jealousy like, oh, I'm relying on somebody and I'm unsafe, and that doesn't make me feel good. So I need to deny my connection to this person and sort of sever off the connection to protect myself by withdrawing inwards and going inside of myself and self-soothing there. An anxious individual, what we'll see is almost the exact opposite. They will feel this really intense response of like this connection's being threatened. And then they associate connection being threatened as being abandoned, being helpless, becoming unsafe in that way, being all alone, and it actually being a threat to survival. And so what we'll see is that APs do exactly the opposite. They don't shut down and go inside of themselves. They go incessantly towards others, trying to derive their needs being met from the outside. And like, I need to extract my needs from you. And they can become very hurt and very afraid and will often cope by overcompensating. Now, ideally, when we do feel jealous or some kind of like jealousy response, it's actually healthy to go towards the person and have a conversation. But there's a difference between feeling jealous and communicating your needs or realizing there are unmet needs versus feeling jealous and then diminishing your sense of self and trying to make yourself better or more suitable for somebody else to try to avoid being abandoned. And this is where APs can become unhealthy in this situation is they don't just go to words and try to like articulate a conversation. They'll go to words and usually compare themselves to another person, try to figure out all the reasons why their attachment relationship is being threatened. So if it's their romantic partner, for example, like why this person's giving attention to somebody else instead of me. What about me is not good enough? What about me is unworthy or is being rejected? And instead of making it like about a communication feature in a relationship and setting a boundary and saying, listen, I don't think that behavior when we're in a relationship together is appropriate. I need you to X, Y, Z, or be mindful about that. Or, hey, I feel uncomfortable. I need reassurance. Instead of making it about like something that meets their needs to equilibrate, they're often too busy trying to solve the problem by meeting the other person's needs even more. And there's this like inherent self-abandonment that takes place for an anxious individual when they're feeling the fear of abandonment or when the jealousy is taking place, it's causing that sort of survival threat. And it's really important to note that as a general rule, I do see in relationships where there's more connection week over week, like they've had a great week, this couple together. One partner who might get jealous is actually significantly less likely to get jealous if the bond is strong. But whenever a relationship is on the rocks or there's already some kind of threat to the bond that's been taking place in the background because there's resentment or communication issues or one or both parties' needs are not met in the relationship, this is when that jealous feeling can sort of spiral out of control. And the sort of like sad or unfortunate part for the anxious, preoccupied person is that they don't feel jealous and then say, oh, my partner's not behaving or I'm feeling insecure and I need to communicate to my partner that I need some reassurance or I need to set a boundary around this behavior because maybe they don't realize how it affects me and it's something that does. Instead, or not even like, oh, I have wounds coming up that I have to work on. Instead, they tend to literally personalize the experience, making them jealous as being all about their own inadequacies and flaws. And it's such an unfair thing to do. It's like you already have the trauma response of jealousy, and then you're like adding fuel to the fire by literally then saying, oh, the reason my partner or loved one is doing the thing that's making me jealous is because I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. And it's this really strong, like beating up of self. And then the behavioral coping that tends to follow that is that then you try to make yourself better so that you can become more worthy of their love and acceptance. And it's a very, very self-defeating cycle. And it's very fear-based. Like it's scary to even feel like that to begin with. So a really important point to start with, and we will, if you guys are interested, like put a follow-up series together on how to sort of manage or deal with some of these jealous feelings. And if you want to do a much deeper dive, by the way, we have an overcoming jealousy and rebuilding trust course inside the school. And I'll put a link in the description box below so you can actually start that for free for 7 days and like really do a deep dive into it. And that, by the way, that link will give you access to all the courses plus that course. So just search that in the search bar when you get into the school, and you'll find the workbook and all the exercises and everything right there for you to help you really reprogram some of this. But what's really important as a starting point is to be able to communicate that an experience is making you feel uncomfortable and that you have a boundary and that you need reassurance. It's really like being able to take away the experience, figure out how to set a boundary, how to communicate a need, what about that experience needs to be solved for, essentially. And then going to have that conversation with the loved one who's involved in that situation. And then it's also taking some accountability and reprogramming some of your wounds. Like obviously there are wounds to make you feel a really, really strong jealous response if there's something that you might be taking out of context or magnifying, because sometimes that can happen. At other times, there's things that are actual just violations of relationship boundaries. And so that jealousy is like, yes, there's a line that's been crossed. And sometimes it's just literally all about a conversation that needs to happen. But if there is a part of you that's really personalizing the experience and making that a reflection of that you're not good enough or this wouldn't happen, then you really want to clean up your thinking around that and do some reprogramming work around that so that you don't have to be diminished by other people's behaviors when it probably has nothing to do with you at the end of the day not being enough in some way. So really important to recognize, and a really great course for doing reprogramming around those wounds is literally the Reprogramming Anxious Attachment course inside of PDS. And there's a lot of resources to help you work through some of those core wounds as well. So thank you so much for being here. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in tomorrow's video.